We are here in Chinatown, almost a year to the date. We were here last year testing the S23 Ultra. This time, I've got in my hands the S23 Ultra. But this time we're pitting against the iPhone 14 Pro Max, low light photography and video. Who is gonna win? We don't have a clue. It's gonna get ugly, it's gonna get pretty. We're gonna find out who is the winner at the end of this video. Let's do it.
This video is brought to you by ASUS. Check out the ASUS ZenBook 14X OLED Space Edition, commemorating the 25th anniversary of the first ASUS laptop sent into space. Not only does it offer a space-exclusive design, but it's even worthy of going where no man has gone before, with its space-grade durability. It even comes with a 3.5-inch OLED companion Zen Vision display, and you will have a ball of a time taking in the views with its 16:10 4K OLED Nano Edge Pantone validated 14-inch display.
All right, so going over the specs once again on the S23 Ultra, it's almost the same as the S22 Ultra, but instead of a 100 megapixel camera, you now have a 200 megapixel camera. Instead of 40 megapixels for the front-facing camera, it's down to 12, but it's improved with the whole dual pixel system that they got inside of it. So that's very similar to what we have here in the iPhone 14 Pro Max. 48 megapixel camera for its main camera system, and it's 12 all the way across, and then 12 on the front as well. But let's see how they perform, because it's not just about numbers, it's also about AI and processing and all that great stuff. A16 Bionic processor inside of this, Snapdragon 8th Gen 2. It's a beast. Who's gonna win? Let's do it. All right, first I'm gonna take out the Ultra here, and we're gonna shoot some lights here. We're gonna test flaring, because a lot of times we're not gonna be shooting in ample situations. Now I see a little bit of flaring going on there. Nothing that J.J. Abrams wouldn't shy away from, but it looks okay. Colors on this don't look as saturated as what I'm seeing in real life. It looks a little bit more muted here on the screen. But again, what you see on the screen is not always what comes out on the computer. Now we're gonna take it to the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I would say there's more flaring out of the iPhone. JJ would be proud. But the colors look a little bit more, have a little more pop to them. With the edge, the S23 Ultra for flaring. Colors, I'll give it to the iPhone. But this is a kind of a boring shot. But you know, these are the situations that we may be in. So now we're gonna try out this scenario here. We got this sort of this neon LED light wall. We got this vending machine here. A little bit of street photography. Bring out the S22 Ultra, 200 megapixels, mind you, because we're maxing out the resolution. iPhone right here. Okay, the iPhone, decent. A little bit washed out here on the colors of the lights here. Now what we're seeing is more of a purplish blue. Here it almost looks white with a little bit of purple, right? You just see a little bit of the flare coming through it. But let's see how the Samsung fares. Okay, this is much better. You definitely see the colors. Now the color isn't accurate to what we're seeing with our eye. It's more purple, but you're seeing the colors in the LED wall. You're seeing the dynamic range here, the shadows, the highlights in the vending machine, so it's exposing for everything. It's done a really good job with a lot of detail. I'm gonna give the win to Samsung. Okay, now we're gonna go to the front-facing camera, because this is a camera that most of us use most of the time. Instagram, Reels, and TikTok and all that great stuff. So I'm gonna do a photo here, and then with the iPhone. Good exposure, looks good. Going to the S23 Ultra. Looking at both of these photos right here, real quick. All right, the S23 Ultra is a lot more saturated than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The iPhone 14 Pro Max looks a little bit more natural, as you can see right here. There is a definite difference in terms of the color out of this. Now, in terms of detail, I would say they're about even. Slight edge to the S23 Ultra on that, but I gotta say, I think I like the colors of the iPhone more on this one. Looks a little bit more natural, more balanced. Anyway, let's go to video right now. Let's test out video on this, because both of these do 4K, by the way. This is the only Android phone thus far that does 4K for the front-facing camera. All the other ones we've tried, Oppo, Xiaomi, Vivo, all of them do 1080 only. So let's have some video fun here. All right, we're doing a video test here on the iPhone 14 Pro Max with a front-facing camera in 4K. I believe it's 25 or 30p, one of those. We'll let you know in the comment section below. and then we're going to go to the Samsung. All right, we're doing video here on the Samsung, and we are shooting in 4K as well. And I'll say that the image does look a little bit smoother, but this display is so gorgeous, it's kind of hard to tell. Probably have to see on the computer screen, but it does look really, really good. Seeing a little bit of flaring coming into play once in a while, but actually this is really well controlled. I say I have to like this video on this quite a bit. All right, looking at both of these videos, I would say this is really tough, to be honest with you. They're really neck and neck. I might say I'd give a little bit of the edge to the S23 Ultra in terms of sharpness, but the iPhone is right there. But in terms of the white balance, I'm gonna give it to the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I feel it does a better job with the white balance. This is just a little bit too warm, a little bit too saturated for my liking, but both are really good, and if you don't have them side by side, you probably won't be able to tell the difference. Anyway, that's it for front-facing camera. Now let's do rear camera for video. All right, so we're doing 4K 24p here on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Okay, now here's the thing with the S23 Ultra. If you use the standard video mode in the camera app, you're not gonna have access to more of the specific frame rates, let's say 24, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can only choose 30 and 60. So I'm using the Pro Video mode right now to do this, and we're gonna test this out. We are recording right now. So I'm now testing the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra here with the Pro Video mode at 4K 24p to match the iPhone to see how it performs. Now, of course, we were just by this loud music happening here, so we're gonna see how the microphone picks up on this, which microphone is better. It's gonna be a battle up for sure, but I think I actually like this app a little bit more than what we see on the iPhone, where you have more control over your video. On the iPhone, you don't have this. You have to download a separate app. So I would probably give the edge to the Samsung in terms of control and customization, but it's all about the video quality, and we're gonna see what they look like right now. Ooh, that's crispy. Crispy stuff. I gotta tell you, Zachy. I gotta give it to Samsung on that. I gotta give it to Samsung. Nice contrast, nice pop, good separation with the background. It looks a lot more professional. This video looks like it could have come out of a APS-C or even a, budget-friendly full-frame camera system. It looks that good. The iPhone tends to be a little bit too HDR-ish with the video on that, and that's a little bit of the downside, which you really can't. You can turn off the HDR to a point, but it's really difficult. It kind of just takes control, but you have customization over this, and with this Pro Video app, I'm gonna give it to Samsung when it comes to the video. What do you think, Zachy?
Samsung.
Samsung, yeah, Samsung for that. Let's go to somewhere dark, Zachy. Let's go dark and dirty.
I know a place.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't ask why.
Okay, let's go. I told you it's gonna get ugly. We're gonna go real deep inside. Now we're really in a dark situation here. This is, I know you can't even see me, Zachy. You're gonna see a little bit of glimpses of light with me, right? We're gonna try this doorway here. Let's see if they got night mode here. We have night mode on this. Let's see how it captures. Wow, impressive, really bumps it up. Okay, that's just one test. Let me bring out the iPhone. Again, these photos aren't gonna win any awards, but we're just testing things out right now. And yeah. Out of these two, the Samsung will definitely pull out more detail because of the night mode on that. We do have a night mode on, some sort of, low light mode on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. It does a decent job of balancing the highlights and the shadows. Well, this is gonna be kind of cool. Let's shoot this. One more time. Okay. These are very close, to be honest with you. I would give a little bit more contrast to the iPhone versus the Samsung, but they both do a good job of pulling out a lot of details in a lower light situation due to their night mode and the way that they expose. So, but I would say looking at the phone screen, I probably would give the edge to the iPhone being a little bit sharper, but we're not done yet. We still got more to shoot. This is pretty good right here. There's a rat right there. Did you see that rat, Zachy? You missed the rat. It's right there. Don't worry. Stand right here, Zachy. I'm gonna take a portrait of you. Little light, because in these situations you would take a photo of somebody, right? Right, yes you would. Backlight, Zachy. Not bad, does a good job exposing. Let's bring out the iPhone. Oh! Oh! I think we got ourselves a winner here. Zachy, I think you're gonna notice this yourself as soon as I show you the image. At first glance, I would say the iPhone. Why? The face is more exposed. Now the back though is a little bit blown out in the highlights. What Samsung has done is balance the highlights and the shadows to give you a really nice image with dynamic range. But if you don't care about that and you say, look, I want something a little bit more natural, how a camera would actually photograph this, then I would give it to the iPhone. But you see the flaring? Definitely more flaring coming out of the iPhone than the Samsung image. What do you guys think? You let us know in the comments which one you prefer. This is very interesting, but I gotta hand it to Samsung for really balancing out the highlights and the shadows and exposing the subject. And this is in portrait mode, mind you. This is not in night mode. This is in portrait mode and it does this. Very impressive camera system. All right, Zachy, let's go along. Well, you know what? We're going to the durian stall. We're gonna find out how it handles durian. Now, for you guys who are not from Singapore, don't know where we're talking about, durian is a fruit that you find in Malaysia, Thailand, I think in this part of the world, right, Zachy?
Yeah.
And it smells, has a very pungent smell, but it tastes amazing. I actually like durian a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I like durian a lot. Oh, there it goes. Try macro mode as well. We kind of just did a 2-in-1 test with this. Now looking at this first glance, the Samsung tends to over sharpen the macro a little bit, whereas the iPhone is a lot more natural in terms of the macro. So this actually looks like a true macro photo. This is macro but over sharpened, so I think the processing is a little bit too heavy on the Samsung, so I'll hand it to Apple on that one. But still good, okay? Nice colors, decent on Samsung. But I think the detail, I would give it to the iPhone on this. I think it just does a good job capturing it. Nice contrast, a little bit more punchier of an image. They're very close to, mind you, okay? They're very close. I would say that there's a little bit more of a bluish hue or a cooler temperature, let me put it that way, cooler temperature on the Samsung Galaxy S23, where there's a little bit more of a warmer temperature on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So you know what's interesting about the iPhone 14 Pro Max in terms of image quality? If you were to match it to a camera system, actually it matches very close to Nikon's color science. So that's something that we've noticed here at Geek Culture quite a bit when we've tried to mix and match iPhone footage with our Nikon Z6 II and Z7 II video files. This matches really well. This is a little bit more cooler. Now you can warm it up very easily, but that's something to take note of. Small thing, but we're talking about the nuances that make these phones different.
Alright guys, so it's time with Zachy. We're gonna kind of run some video tests with the iPhone 14 Pro, pretty much the same cameras as the Pro Max, as well as the Samsung S23 Ultra. We're gonna basically be using Bobby's awesome Volkswagen Arteon. There we go, very nice. We're just gonna create a montage, shoot it in 4K, 50 frames per second or 60 frames per second if you will, get some nice slow-mo, and we're all gonna do it handheld just to test the OIS as well. Pretty much using the standard lens when it comes to low light, and because the S23 Ultra and the iPhone 14 Pro have a cinematic mode as well, we're gonna test them out, so let's hop to it. I'm gonna try and make this as consistent as I can, shot for shot, and we'll just see how it goes in post.
All right, go for it.
Check you guys in a bit. Alright, so you've seen the footage. you can kind of tell there are some drastic differences when it comes to certain lighting conditions on both phones. That being said, the iPhone 14 Pro/Pro Max, you tend to see when it comes to the default configurations or default exposures that the iPhone 14 is trying to get as much light in as possible. So things tend to be overexposed. Now, of course, you can adjust that manually, bring the exposure down a little bit so you can get something that's less noisy and a little bit more sharper in the details, right? But Samsung S23, man, I mean, we've tested the phone last year, the S22 Ultra last year, and this has a significant difference. If you are looking for a phone for video, I think this is a very strong contender for 2023.
Final thoughts, as Zach, you just kind of talked about in the terms of the video quality, shooting the car here. I gotta hand it to Samsung for the video quality overall. I think they've done a really good job with this. iPhone, I'm a huge iPhone fan. I love what Apple does, but I gotta say, there are times that the stabilization just doesn't work. It jitters when it shouldn't jitter, where the Samsung is a lot more fluid. And I like the more neutral tones coming out of the Samsung's camera versus the very warm tones coming out of iPhones. Now, this is something you can adjust in post to some extent, but with these camera systems, it's nice to have it out of the gate right away versus you have to going into post and editing them. But overall, I gotta say, this has been a really interesting battle. I thought the iPhone would definitely take this overall. And while there's the ecosystem that Apple has that I think is superior to what Samsung has overall, I have to say, camera for camera, the S23 Ultra has really impressed me, to the point where I would definitely recommend it for most people out there. Probably is arguably the best Android camera right now, and I'm saying that in February because there's a lot of stuff coming in the next couple months. So they could give Samsung a challenge on this. But as of right now, in terms of video and also photography, I gotta say Samsung's done a tremendous job. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts. Which one did you like the most in the comment section below? If you like this review, check out more of our videos right here.